Wonderful. So welcome to the Silver Science Virtual Sanctuary and to this masterclass, Burnout Unpacked, Understanding, Preventing and Overcoming Midlife Overwhelm with Joe Clark. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you so much, Faith, and welcome everybody to the session today. Thanks for joining us, and for those who are going to be watching later on, welcome as well. You're right to keep admitting people now, Faith? All right, beautiful. I don't know if you read anything about my bio. I came from an education background, over 3 decades within education, from classroom teacher, senior teacher, principalship, curriculum development. Foremost in my role was always being a mentor to younger students, a mentor to the younger teachers, and a mentor to beginner teachers as well. So I left that profession, and I'll be talking about why I left that profession throughout my presentation today. And I just love mentoring and sharing what I've learned. And now part of my role is mentoring women in the middle of life as they go through multiple transitions, getting through all of the various major life events that happen in this time of life. And I also have a podcast called Redefining Midlife, which Faith has also been on as a guest. It's talking all about the health and wellness of women in the middle of life, and it's proud to say it's a top 5% global podcast now, and it really is reaching women from all different walks of life in different countries. So what I'm going to be doing is I love my sessions to be interactive. If you've got a pen and paper, make sure you've got that. And I'll also be stopping from my slides Faith and I were trying to make sure that it was going to be seamless. We did work out a seamless way. Whether or not it continues to be seamless, we'll just see. But I do like to be able to chat in the chat box. I'm sure you're probably all familiar, but if you're not, down the bottom of your screen you should see a chat function there. So if there's any time where there's you've got a question, you can pop it in there or write it down for afterwards for our Q&A time. But also, if I ask you a question, or your response for something, just use that chat function and we can just interact with each other that way as well. As anyone, before I start the session, has anyone got their phone on that's not on silent? Change that now. Make sure that you've got your door closed and that you're going to be able to be allowing this time just for yourself today. And before I start the session as well, I just would love you to center yourself and get rid of any of the thoughts that might be whirling through your head from the start of the morning, because everyone's morning could have been, we don't know, it could have been very busy, it could have been, really, really busy. So what we'll do is just find this time now to center ourselves with 3 deep breaths, intentional breaths. So make sure that you're sitting comfortably in your chair. If you can, feet on the floor. I always like to put one hand on my heart, one hand on my belly, and just close down the eyes so there's nothing else that's going to distract you. And just focusing 3 deep breaths, breathing in through your nose. And then slowly exhaling out. One more breath in, breathing in. And inhaling all of the good thoughts, good energy. And exhaling any worries, any negativity that you might be feeling from the morning. And then one more breath in. And exhaling. And then just when you're ready, open up your eyes. Right, well, I will attempt to share the screen now and hope that it's going to work out for us. And Faith, we've got 2 of them on the screen now, so that should be interesting. There we go. Okay, so I'm just double checking, Faith, thumbs up, you can see it. All right, can you see my face or everybody on the screen?
I can see your slide and then everyone's on top, just on
Okay,
top.
all righty, lovely. So over this next 60 minutes, we're going to be talking about what burnout is, how it does show up in our life, the things that we need to do when we start to recognize the signs, because sometimes we don't recognize the signs with the busyness of life that happens. And then 4 keys that research has shown that can help us unlock a healthier and a more fulfilling way forward. what I'll say, and this will be our first chance of seeing if we can use this function of me going in and out of presenting and not presenting. So I just want you in the chat, when you hear the word burnout, what does come to mind for you? Is there a certain word or is there a phrase? Yeah. You got at least stuffed. Okay, so we've got words such as exhaustion, overwhelm, and that just I'm stuffed. I'm feeling, yeah, mental exhaustion. So it's not just a physical exhaustion, it's that whole mental exhaustion. And from the ladies who are attending on the screen today, I don't know whether or not you've experienced a burnout situation yourself, or whether you are coming towards that whole feeling of being burnt out, or you know somebody who has, but we'll keep talking about these things during the session and have a chance to share more. So my story of burnout it actually occurred over time. It happened about 5 years ago when I reached that point of no return. Burnout is cumulative. It happens over time, and it's not just usually one thing that will cause burnout. It's a number. It's a layer upon layer upon layer. And being in the role of in education, it was a career that I started, as I said, at the beginning over 30 years ago. It was a very different career to the career that I had started and to the career that I had left. It was a career that no longer aligned. So I had a whole idea of what I wanted to do within my career had changed. It had morphed into something that I couldn't recognize and I didn't like. On top of my whole career burnout and the feeling that I'm not in a career that I'm enjoying anymore and it's wanting more and more of me when I've got less and less, a number of things were starting to happen in my life as well. And these are a lot of the big transitions that happen for women in the middle of life. I had my children who were going through, because at that stage I lived in a rural area, my children had moved away to a boarding school, 2 children, 2 different schools, traveling for me weekends to be able to see them. So I had the constant of travel of hundreds of kilometers week after week, year after year, for up to 7 years when that was happening. At that same time, went through the grief of losing parents. Prior to that, the slow decline of caring for parents who were becoming very unwell, and then the grief that happened when they finally did pass away. Then there was also what was happening to my own body. I was starting to experience a lot of the very difficult symptoms of perimenopause, where I wasn't sleeping very well at night at all, waking up 10, 15 times a night. So I was physically tired as well. Because there was so much asked of me, that whole I'm always busy, and it's almost a sign or a badge of honor that many women have, that society tells us busy is good. And that was me. I was busy. If someone asked how I was, I'm busy. Everything is going 100 miles an hour. So I always pushed through, ignored the signs of how I was actually feeling physically, how I was feeling mentally, how I was feeling emotionally. I came to a point where I did reach a breaking point, and that breaking point wasn't pretty. You often hear of the bathroom floor, where the bathroom floor moment where you're curled up in a fetal position. I wasn't on the bathroom floor, but I was on the couch, and it took me some time to get off that couch to the point where I couldn't go any further. Something gave, and I got to that point where I decided it wasn't going to be me. So I learnt then, what do I need to do to get past that point, of absolute physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion? What was it going to do for me to get past that point, to reimagine what a new normal could look like? And for me, I'm always a lifelong learner. I just learned everything that I could to get myself to pass that point of burnout and to break through a new normal for me, because what was happening was not going to be sustainable at all. Now, when we had what word comes to mind when you think about the word overwhelm? You had some great answers. And I'm just wondering, have you ever reached a point, and this is a rhetorical question for yourself to think about, where your body or your mind has just said enough, but you push through that anyway, and it might be because of somebody else is needing you to be there, or because of work is expecting you to be there. And then I want you to think about, well, what happened when you did that? Because when you do say, and we'll talk about this more further down the track, when we say yes to something, we say no to something else. So when we just keep on saying, yes, I'm going to do that, yes, I'm going to show up on to do this, or yes, I'm going to be there for this person, yes, 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 every yes to somebody else is often a no to us. And so think about if that was your story. We'll talk about what burnout is right now. And it's not just the fact that burnout is physical exhaustion. It is emotional, physical, and mental. And here are the key words. It's prolonged. And like I explained for myself, it didn't happen overnight. It took a number of years. Excessive demands. And it doesn't matter whether you are in a caregiving role, whether it's career or household, or you are wearing multiple roles. And what's really interesting, the term burnout actually came from, and I'll see if I can drag that down a little bit. And the person who came up with this term burnout was somebody who was talking about caregiving burnout, and it's a term that came in the 70s. So it didn't even talk about career at that stage that we so often associate burnout with. It came from the caregiving role. And Herbert I'm not very good at my German, Freudenberger. So Herbert Freudenberger came up with this whole term. And since then, it's been adapted to be used in other areas other than caregiving. So I found that really interesting when I was digging into this myself. Well, exactly where did it come from? We know midlife women are especially vulnerable to this because we wear, the term, we wear a number of hats. At the time of wearing a number of hats, we also experience multiple major transitions, and they often happen within a short amount of time. And when I say short amount of time, in my case, they really happened within probably 7 years, one after another. It was bang, 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 and some at the same time. For others, it might be a period of 15, 20 years, and it's a more clean step from one transition to the other. However, there are multiple transitions. So as we go through these, just think about how many of these that you are experiencing right now. Many women, in fact, I would hazard a guess to say all women, and that might be, I couldn't imagine there wouldn't be one woman out there, wouldn't have multiple responsibilities. We're also finding in this stage of life that your roles are changing, and the responsibilities that you have within those roles are changing. And then we've got that big rhetorical, well, who am I now? That whole know thyself. I don't know myself anymore. That can cause that whole burnout because you've got a friction between what's going on and how you're feeling in a deeper sense. Many women are also caring for children and aging parents. So we've got that sandwich generation happening. And this can go on for a long time. And even if your children may not be of school age, they may be still have left school and they're living at home. There's often a lot of relationship challenges that happen in this stage of life. We experience a lot of grief and loss of identity, loss of different roles, loss of people. And with that comes the grief. And again, when you've got one layer of grief on another layer of grief, it does start to add up. Women go through hormonal changes as well, as we all know, through the menopause transition. That in itself can bring a lot of different changes on how we feel, and about our own sense of who we are as well can sometimes come up for many women. During this time of midlife, and when I say midlife, I'm talking the sociologists say between, the general conception is between 40 and 65, but we know that many sociologists are now saying between 35 to 75. That's a huge chunk of our life. During that huge chunk of our life, there are going to be health challenges, whether they're challenges that you're experiencing or challenges that your partner, your friends, other people in your life, important people in your life are experiencing. Then we've also got that cultural pressure, just push through, be busy. And as I said before, that for me was a badge of honor because that was the expectation. And by God, I was living up to that. So there's that whole lot of people decide that they're just going to push through or ignore it. That's saying, I'll rest when I'm dead. All of that sort of crazy nonsense starts to happen. And that just becomes a way of life that for many of us becomes the norm. And women, because we go through these things, so many of these things, that's exactly why we start to feel that. So just think about now, where are you feeling these various pressures? Are you feeling them at work? Perhaps you're still in the workforce. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're working from home. Maybe it's part-time. Maybe you've retired. So this part doesn't happen for you anymore, but maybe you've got somebody in your life who you're helping. It's a support because they're working, husband, partner, children. Are you feeling the pressure at home? Are you feeling any pressures with your health or expectations of yourself? And I'd be really interested just for you to jot down, if you're happy to, and again, because this is very personal things to say, if you're happy to, which one, and I'll stop the share now, which one are you finding? And you can just write the words some, none, or all. We don't need to worry too much about the ins and outs of it. Okay, so for the replay, if you can't see our chat, we've got some, home, self. And if it's not happening to you now, you've probably got somebody in your life that you can see who all of these things may affect them, or maybe it's one in particular. Okay. Whoopsie daisies, go back, hands off. When we're looking at burnout, it often happens in 3 different areas and it shows up. So just be mindful of these different areas. So in your body, you might often feeling that fatigue, that absolutely I'm bone tired. But going with that, there's often poor sleep that happens. Now, it may be due to the stresses that you had, that you can't get to sleep. You're waking at 3 o'clock and your mind's going a million miles an hour, or you're having to do a number of roles, so you're not being able to get to bed when you should. You're waking up very early. Maybe you've got hot flushes during the night as well. That's causing some of that poor sleep to occur. It'll often show up in frequent illnesses as well. When your body is very stressed, you will become unwell in some way. It'll manifest somehow. So perhaps for some people, you catch every cold that comes along. Maybe you just can't get over something in particular, that you may a virus or a bacterial infection, but there will be something. And for some, it can become a more chronic illness, or it can be something that is a autoimmune disorder. I know for me, because I wasn't focusing on my own health, I was starting to feel physically and showing the signs when I looked at various tests that the doctor would give me. My body was telling me I wasn't looking after it. I was starting to burn out. It was showing up and manifesting within my body in the blood results. Think about it in your mind as well. There could be lots of brain fog. You've got a whole lot of things that are happening. You can't focus, think straight, forgetfulness, the whole poor focus. You're doing too many things at once. That whole idea of multitasking. I'm not just going to focus on one thing. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. So therefore you do. And your inability to focus solely and properly sometimes occurs. Then we've also got the issue of how you're feeling spiritually and emotionally. That I'm irritable all the time. Hands up, that was me. I was very irritable. And when that's not normally my state of being. Withdrawal, some people like to, or not like to, but some people withdraw when they've got the time, they just withdraw. That whole loss of joy, that's huge. And it's only sometimes on reflection that you can look back and notice these things. When you're in the midst of burnout, sometimes you're not aware of it happening. And it can be insidious because it can be like a drip, 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 drip. And it's not until you get over the other side or at the other side that you realize how exactly your body, your mind, your spirit and emotions were at that stage when you weren't at your top of your game. So what do you do when you recognize the signs? And this is a really important one to think about. The first step is actually awareness. And it's being aware that these things are happening, being aware that you are being affected, being aware that it is causing some considerable stress on your body. It may be causing stress on your mind, your emotions, your spirit. So first of all, just acknowledge it and become aware. Then ask yourself, what can you do to actually let go of? So check that load. Is there something that you can let go of? Maybe it's seeking support, and it may be seeking support from somebody who is an expert. It may be seeking support from just your partner to take on another role, or your children, or your work colleagues. You don't have to do it all. And I was under the impression if something was going to get done, well, then I'd do it because I'd do it really well, and nobody else could possibly do it as well as I could, which was just a huge egoic issue on my part. And maybe they couldn't all the time do it, but for me, it was better to delegate and to hand over some of these things to support me. And I think as women, we just need to say, sometimes I'll just hand it over to you. Perhaps you can help me here. Also, I found saying no. No is a really hard word to say when you've been used to saying yes. Yes, I'll take on this role. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do that. No is a really powerful word, because when you say no to something, you say yes. It was a reverse of what I was saying before. When you say no to something, you can say yes to yourself. And it doesn't have to be a major no. It can be a small no. No, I'm not going to go out on Friday night. I'm going to have an earlier night. No, I'm not going to bake the cake for the sale at the community sale at the end of the week. I'm actually going to have that time and spending it for myself. No, I'm not going to scroll through social media. I'm going to get out and potter in the garden. All of these things add up. And then there's these micro rest practices that you can do, and we'll talk about some of those shortly. When we start to find out that, or recognize that we have burnout, the importance is, just as burnout didn't happen overnight, your recovery from burnout and overwhelm isn't going to happen overnight either. They're going to be coming with small steps, micro steps over time. But bit by bit, those things add up. So it's a whole being intentional with what you're going to do. So just thinking in your own life, is there one thing that you could say no to that could protect your energy this week? And if there is, just jot down, what could that one thing be? And if you know, if you want to share, you can pop that in the chat as well. It might be saying no to staying up late and watching a Netflix series that you've been watching. It might be catching up with somebody. But there's always one thing that we can say no to that's going to protect our energy. What I found really helped for me, and I say how I overcame midlife overwhelm, oh gosh, sorry, is my own personal recovery path. So it came also, I reached a reckoning where, oh my God, something's given. I can't go on and live this life that I'm now living, to more of a beckoning. Well, what am I going to do about it? And as I said earlier, I'm really big with becoming I am a lifelong learner. So for me, I knew it was looking at all aspects of my wellness that was going to get me on the path to recovery, how I can overcome these things. Because if we are not looking after our health, we can't do anything. If we're unwell, if we're physically unwell, mentally unwell, emotionally deplete, we can't go on and do what we want to do. So I knew I had to fix these areas. And it was creating my own menu, because everyone's menu is going to look different. So for me, I learned all I could about nutrition and the basic nutrition, what is basically going to help me. For me, it was less alcohol. I would have a wine at night to try to calm myself down. Stop doing that. That wasn't going to be in my best interest. It's not going to be best for my health. So one wine after one wine, day after day, that can be 7 wines a week. I don't need that much alcohol in my system. That wasn't going to be helping me sleep. So that's going to affect another pillar, the sleep and rest pillar. Movement. I just found, because I was packing my days with so much of time taken up doing everything else, I wasn't dedicating any time to moving my body. And as we all know, moving our body has so many profound effects for us, not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally. So I made sure movement became non-negotiable. What could I do? And again, I wasn't going to start big, because I knew from all of the research that I had done, even when I was at my role within the education department, we know that starting small, it's small step after small step. So what can I do that could take 5 minutes, that could make a profound difference, that I could build on? Managing stress is major. And again, this can look different for every single person. For me, I learned Vedic meditation, and it was life-changing. It was 20 minutes twice a day of sitting down with myself, and that was a non-negotiable, absolute non-negotiable. So I had to set myself up on a list of what I call my non-negotiables. And I had to stay within integrity of that. So if you find yourself that you are facing various stages of overwhelm, all the way to the area of burnout, that you cannot go on, that you are physically deplete, mentally deplete, emotionally deplete, then you've got to find these tiny little steps that are going to get you on the path to recovery, what they're going to be. And then it's not only knowing and understanding all of this, it's putting into practice. And it's making yourself accountable. And if you need other people to help you to stay accountable, find them. Find a community or somebody or people around you that can help you do that. And it's also taking those small steps after small steps, your recipe. So mine was Vedic meditation. I also started to implement some breath work. I started journaling. And again, I didn't do it all at once. It was one thing, nail that, and then add something else. Sleep and rest had to become a priority. My sleep was disrupted because I was so stressed. My sleep was also disrupted because of being woken up countless times with night sweats. So I had to get that under control. I had to prioritize rest, and rest can look different. In my role as a teacher, you are told when you are going to rest because you have school holidays. And a lot of those school holidays aren't taken up with resting anyway. So I had to find other moments of rest. So rest can be long periods or longer periods. They can be short breaks. It could be sitting down with a cuppa before I start my day. It could be sitting down in a chair and having 3 breaths. It could be doing those 3 breaths in the checkout line. We've just got to find something that's going to work for us. Purpose and connection. This was major as well. Finding your purpose in this stage of life is really key. And that's a lot of the work that I do with women, is to find their new purpose, the who am I now when I'm not this anymore, when I'm not a full-time mum, when I'm not in a full-time career, when I'm not feeling myself. It's knowing thyself again. And when I found that, I started to feel much better, because I knew I didn't want to be in the place that I was anymore. So what was that going to look like for me? So finding a sense of purpose, and that is going to look different, like your wellness recipe is going to look different for everybody. And you may already have that sense of purpose. That's fine. Enhance that. What can you do to enrich it if you already know what your purpose is? Connection is incredibly important. Find that connection with other people. And we don't want to be in a pity party. And I found removing myself away from my staff room was massive, because it was a very negative place. Find yourself and surround yourself with more positive people. Your community, whether that be 1 or 2 people or 10 or 20 people, find them, cherish them, and make sure that you are in amongst them. And if you don't have a community of people or somebody that you can be with, find them. I really encourage you to find them. And then when I look at the hormone pillar, now hormones for me, it's not just my sex hormones. It's not just my estrogen and progesterone and getting that under control. It was also looking at all of the endocrine disrupting things that I had in my life that was also causing stress on my body. So it was reducing the toxic overload that I had in my own personal products that I was using, and the things that I was using for cleaning. So it was finding out what I could do to reduce that, to have some more natural things in my life. All of these put together created my own wellness recipe. That helped me feel better physically. I could see the difference over time within blood tests, within having my DEXA scans, when I started to move my body more, lift weights, eat well, less alcohol, sleep more. All of these things started to make me feel better again. And it didn't happen overnight. It happened over time. And it's always something that I'm changing, tweaking, because my life is changing. Things happen. My body might get unwell. There could be lots of things that are happening externally as well as internally. So it's tweaking things. And from that, I was able to learn how to put things together and teach other people to do that as well within my own wellness membership. So teaching other women, how do you get your recipe together? Research tells us, and a lot of these come in with what I was just talking about then, are the keys to recovery. So let's restore our body. Finding things that are going to restore your body. What are they going to be? Is it going to be a different way of eating, a different way of moving, sleeping, all of those things that we talked about before? Resetting the mind. So look at your stress, reducing your stress. You're never going to get rid of stress in your life. Stress is always going to be there. How are you going to manage it? What are the tools that you're going to use? What are your practices? Find what resonates with you. There's so much out there. It can be overwhelming trying to figure out exactly what it's going to be. My suggestion is try something, see if it resonates. It's not going to be the same for everybody, and it may change over time. And it may not just be one thing. There may be a number of things that you can do. Most of the things that we can do for recovery don't cost us a cent. Most of the things are things that we know are out there, but we probably just don't implement and find the time to put them into place. That whole reconnecting with others, as I said before, that part was part of my pillars that got me on the road to recovery. And then the other one is just reimagine your rhythm, finding out what is suiting you in this stage of life. How is it going to look for you now? You don't want to go back to that feeling of absolute overwhelm to the point of burnout. So what are you going to do? Reimagine that. What's it going to look like for you? So just think about those four things now: the restore, the reset, the reconnect, and reimagine. And I want this to be something that you can come away with at the end of this session that you can do for yourself. One small step that you can do for each key. So I've given an example for the restore. It might be going to bed 30 minutes earlier. You might say, I can't do that, 30 minutes. All right, make it 10 minutes earlier, 5 minutes earlier. Maybe it's not having a screen before bed. Think about what it could be for you. Maybe it is something like that. Reset. What could you do to help reset your mind? What can you do to reconnect? Is there a friend that you can call on? And then reimagine something. So I really encourage you, write those four things down now and think about what is it going to look like for you. So I'll close my mouth and have a little sip of my tea. And if you can just jot down something for you. That's great, Faith. The guilt that women can sometimes feel of saying no is huge. And that's why sometimes it's easier to say yes. And something that I've found, and I'm sure we can talk about this when I finish the presentation, it's that whole feeling resentful that you're having to do all of these things, and I think that can be overwhelmed. That can lead to that whole overwhelm as well. You're saying yes to a lot of things that you don't particularly want to do. And if you continue to do that, whether it be work, whether it be in your social connections, whether it be within your family, the feeling of resentment is not a positive feeling and emotion. Resume swimming, love it. Beach walk. Oh, lucky Natasha, near a beach. Listen to jazz. Beautiful. Yeah, back to running and swimming. Excellent. Well, that is what I suggest you do, is hold yourself to account and be intentional with this and be in integrity with it. So what you've written and said you're going to do, actually do it. Don't just write it down. And that's the whole thing when I'm working with women, is that we know on one level that this is what we should be doing. Putting it into practice is that next layer that can add the difficulty. And you might be on a roll for a while, and then all of a sudden something happens, you stop and you're back to square one again. It is building in a practice for yourself and holding that, and be really intentional and be in integrity with that. You are important and you need to make sure that you put yourself first. So I'm going to attempt to share again. So when you're talking about your next chapter, that next chapter being when I'm not living in this overwhelm, or I'm not in this whole burnout, feeling of burnout, whether you are working towards a full-blown burnout or not, it's adding that intention. These are questions that would be really great to journal on, writing down your ideas afterwards, and giving yourself time and space after we've had this session, whether it be straight after, maybe on the weekend, later in the day. Find the time to jot down these questions and really dig deep. So what do you want more of in this season of your life? What do I need to let go of? And this can sometimes be really hard, because there's that whole fight between changing roles, but also of delegating. And then really think about, well, what is that one small step that you can take this week? And they're good to come back as reflective questions, not just for this session, but afterwards, maybe revisit it in a month's time, because it may look different again. So the whole idea that midlife is not about burning out, it is about lighting up. And I want you to think about now, what is it that you want to do? Because you are more than the roles that you've been wearing. You're more than all the hats that you put on at the start of every day and you take off at night. It is never too late to truly create a life that you desire. So make sure that you put yourself first. We don't want you burning out. The people around you don't want you burn out. You want to be able to light up. If you want to continue anything that from our conversation today, my podcast, Redefining Midlife, has had some of the top health and wellness experts, some of the top professors in research in women's health come on to talk about some of these things. We've had some amazing midlife women in the middle of life who've talked about things that are happening and are important to them as well. As I said, the lovely Faith was on. It was last year, I think, Faith, that you were on. Gosh, time gets away. It was probably the middle of last year that you came on to chat. But listen to other people as well, and hear their experiences and learn from that. And then on my own website, I've got a lot of different things that are on there that if that's something of interest to you, that you can go to as well. But know there are people everywhere that can help you overcome your feelings of overwhelm, overcome your feelings of burnout, to the point where you can start creating your own recipe of what your life is going to look like and how you're going to nurture and care for yourself. So, oh, Jill, I missed yours. Nature walk, even on local streets, focus on clouds, sky, trees, plants. Beautiful. I will open it up to take if you're happy that you want to share something that you've learnt from today, something that you'd like to chat about, a question that you might have. Let's use this time now to start to talk about, because we've got a community of women together. When women come together, amazing things happen. So what have you found? What are you going to work on for yourself?
Thank you. And I just wanted to say, if there's anyone that wants to ask a question but don't want to come off their video or speak, just put it in the chat and I'll read it out, or Joe will read it out, okay? Because I really want the session to be helpful if there's anyone here right now struggling with burnout. Okay, so yep, let's open the floor. I would like to, anyone with any questions or any comments or their own experience? Yeah, go Lee. Just unmute yourself. Yeah.
Thanks. That was really great, Joe. Thank you. And I was just thinking about this at the start when you were talking about what can bring burnout um, in people, the cultural expectations. And I was thinking, about the cultural expectations of women as caregivers. And so I'm a bit like you over haven't reached burnout, but I've nearly been there. And I'm a life coach too. So I guess I saw the signs and was able to do things, but definitely have gone there both with a parent dying, now a parent with dementia, teenage children with mental health issues, so it's that sandwich thing, absolutely. And when I thought about what you were saying about cultural expectations, I was thinking there's that, but then also that ends up being self expectations. I was expecting things of myself, and also other people would always say to me, "You're so good at this stuff. You're so strong," and I'm going, "Fuck." Excuse me. But I think also then when you are supporting other people, what is hidden is all the appointments you go to, all the trauma you hear from the other people over and over again, and that isn't actually, you don't expect it to be acknowledged. You're not expecting a pat on the back, but what does happen is what you said is the resentment, because you do start getting so tired and like, I'm the one going to all these things and I'm the one doing all these things and witnessing all this stuff, and there's no one to say to support me.
Yeah.
So I really liked what you said, and I absolutely agree with non-negotiables and with movement too, and those other pillars. But for me, movement is part of stress management.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really loved everything you said. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee, you gave a great point on that sometimes it's what we put on ourselves as well. We've got society, but also what we put on ourselves. And it's such a learned behavior, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
we have learned through societal expectations that this is good. So we learn this is good. This is what I need to do in order to be, a good wife, a good mum, a good colleague, a good worker. So there are so many things that we impose on ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, without really
Yes.
noticing. Yeah,
And
Yeah.
that whole going through the the caring for your parent, being the caring role for an aging parent, it's hard. It
mm,
it is hard.
mm, mm.
So I've gone through mum, dad, and my mother-in-law, seeing her through
That's
her
right.
transition as she was dying at home,
Yeah,
and the process of that. It is physically, mentally exhausting.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had and still have supporting teenagers
Mm.
with mental health things too. And you know, I know this sounds bleak, but she had to go and get support elsewhere, and I was in accommodation nearby, and that's where I almost had the burnout. Like I was just like flattened and had to cancel
Mm.
sessions and things. And I did notice what was going on, but yeah, because it's like that duck analogy, you're calm on the top of it.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah.
You're just trying to go and go, but I didn't realize that until I crashed at that moment. Yep,
Isn't it interesting? It's only in hindsight often that you can go, oh my God.
yep,
Yeah, it's stopping. It's stopping and taking those little moments just to check in with ourselves and check in with other people because they might notice it as well, but aren't able to say it to you.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, thank you. That was great.
Well,
Mm. And to continue on that theme, for me, I think that sense of validation, our busyness being a sense of validation, that really spoke to me when you said that. Again, I think it's a very female thing too, but that real hustle culture, when we get all stuck in that hustle culture and get pats on the back, because we're really busy. And I've really had to get very intentional about not using that as a good thing. It's not a good thing to be that busy that I can't do the basics. So yeah, and I think in my the chat I was writing, for me there's an event on tonight, and it's harder for me when it's women in our community because it is a woman in our community that I adore and want to support. But I know that for me to go, she's doing an event tonight. For me to go would really be saying no to my mental health, my health, a number of things, I would be saying no to if I went, even though I know I'm going to disappoint her. I actually have to say no, and that kind of deal with that guilt, but just manage the guilt and just say no.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's so powerful. and create those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah.
And that can be hard when you have boundaries that you have established and people learn how to treat you because of the boundaries you've set up to suddenly become someone different. That's a whole lot of learning, not only for you and bravery on your part, but it's also a learning for them and a new way of treating you. And sometimes they'll get kickback, don't you? Like all of it, if you say no enough to certain people who expect that of you,
Yeah.
good on
I
you.
also say we have to model that though, because I can't keep talking about mental health, and boundaries if I'm not doing it. So that's where I go, okay, well, you're just modeling it. So it's good.
Yeah, so true, so true. And don't we come up with the best advice that we can give others
I
that we
know.
don't actually do for ourselves? I mean, if you saw somebody who, a friend of yours or your daughter or someone special to you, and you know they were at that end of their tether, you would have all sorts of wonderful advice for them.
Yeah.
Yet we don't give that
Yeah.
same advice to ourselves.
Ourselves.
We might know it, but we don't put it into place. Yeah, that
Yeah,
intentionality
absolutely.
carrying through is just so key.
Absolutely. So I just want to read quickly, so Natasha, so Joe, able to provide, yeah, are you able to provide the slides? The recording, definitely. So if you're okay to share the slides?
Yeah, well, that's part of the recording as well, but I can certainly put that
Yeah,
down.
if
I
you
can
put that, then
add
I
that
can add that
attachment.
to
I'll
when I
send that
send
to
that.
you.
So that's not a problem. And
Yeah.
Natasha said it's been an excellent session. Thank you so
Oh,
much. Yeah,
you're
so no problem. I'll send out the if I receive the slides from Joe today, I'll send everything out this evening. So you'll get that later on.
yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so Jill and Deb, any one of you want to join in? Jill, I can see you're trying to unmute yourself. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, well, I'm in my 70s, so I have been through all of those kind of things, juggling work and my parents and parents-in-law getting sicker and aging and dying, and also, having children, all the things, right? So, but at this stage of my life, I'm retired from work, but my husband and I have become involved in climate change advocacy. And I can see that is a community where they burn out. They can just burn out so much, trying to do something about the planet, and plus how confronting the information is. So, having just been in Canberra at a conference for 2.5 days on that, and spending time with people who would be a generation or two generations younger than me, right from medical students right up to retirees, and the range of ages. Many of them are parenting and they're very actively working as climate change activists and working full time and on call. And that is such a recipe for burnout. So this has been a very helpful session, Joe. Thank you. And thank you, Faith, as wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Jill, I'm interested. Would you have advice, having gone through all
Yeah,
the busyness of this stage of life?
yeah, yeah.
What do you see on reflection now that you wish you would have done back in the day when things were, you were living at that overwhelm, perhaps slash burnout stage?
Well, it was worrying for me in that my mother had early heart disease and my brother too. They both had had a heart attack at 42. I'm now 74. And so my concern was how to deal with all of that, get enough exercise, look after my health back. And my husband was working on call, huge amounts of work in the public hospital system. So I just, well, my advice would be, I mean, exercise always. But the recent research on that is even the phase 1 exercise, the walking locally, looking at the sky, the trees, the plants, has been exercise, definitely, various iterations of it. Allowing myself to have a nap on a Sunday afternoon, early nights, and look at plenty of sleep. Um, Faith, I'm a person of faith, but I'm not fundamentalist. What can I say? Just all the things that you have said, Joe, really. And reading and understanding. In my work, I was looking after caregivers essentially, and the people that they were caring for. I was working part-time. I think that is a huge benefit to work part-time. Sometimes it was 4 days a week, sometimes 3 days when my mother had become more ill and my uncle. I think full-time young women have it really, really, really tough. They've got the high mortgages, they've got the full-time work, and they've got social media, blah, blah, blah. I won't keep going on. And social media is very helpful for connection, but it's also so much comparison and pressure. I feel for the younger women. They're really locked in. So they, you know, what can I say? Sorry, I hope I haven't said too much.
No, you're good.
Hindsight is so wonderful, isn't it, to look back, and you've come from a, you know, the part as well that you've gone through it and you've
Oh,
had.
yes. Yeah, the burnout for me was when I worked in the public hospital system, in the mental health services, which I had to go back into to work in the public system because I was doing a specialty in aged care psychiatry. And for me, that was in a way the revolution in my life. I decided to switch from general psychiatry and working with mothers who were depressed with young children, many of whom were heading toward the family law court. Tricky. I moved into aged care psychiatry, did that subspecialty, worked part-time. It was a gentler field. So I guess the extra study, the extra, I don't know, just less pressure, you know. So I had a change. You know, I did that qualification when I was 50, that extra one, but part-time.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much for sharing, Jill.
That's okay.
Lots of words of wisdom there. Yeah.
Oh, hopefully.
Yes.
Still
Definitely.
learning, still learning.
Deborah, is there anything that you wanted to share or add to our conversation?
I think just to add, and thank you, and thank you everyone on here. It's been such a valuable session. I think building on the points that Jill was just saying, and going back to what one of the elements you touched on as well, Joe, around that sense of purpose. I think that's really important, and particularly then if that is in advocacy and many in midlife, or not only in midlife, but you know, when you kind of find that, I think that's when the self-care and the boundaries become even more important, because you can equally lose yourself when you're poor. You know, it can feel so flow-like at times that it's a little bit like that retrospective, you know, when you're feeling depleted. So yeah, I guess would just be to kind of add on, and today's been amazing as I guess a point of reflecting on how we're all feeling.
That was a really good point that you just made then. That you do need to have that time. Yeah, well done. Thank you for adding that, because that is a really important point.
Okay, we just got space for a really quick. Chanel, did you want to add anything? I think you're in the office. Do you want to add anything? You're okay? You're in the office? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Look, thank you all for your time today. I think I've definitely gotten a lot out of this, and I hope those that are watching the replay, if you've got any questions for Joe, please send Joe an email directly or reach out to me. So I just want to thank all of the women that are here live. Really appreciate you. It's really lovely to have a few people live so we can be interactive. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Mwah.
Thank you so
Have
much,
a great rest of the day, ladies.
Yeah.